and you're going to end up like having to cover it yourself, and you won't be able to. You're going to lose all your money, and be homeless, and live under a bridge yourself. It was like this, like real estate's horrible kind of speech, right? So I went to Google and I was like, what to do when tenants don't pay rent? And I find this site called Bigger Pockets. I remember printing out the article. Not that the answer was fine. I'm sure it was a good answer. I don't remember what the answer said, but what it told me was there was answers to all those like naysayers, right? Just like when people are like, yo, you shouldn't invest in crypto, or you shouldn't invest in the stock market, it's risky, or you shouldn't be an entrepreneur, you shouldn't start a business. Everyone's got like this reason why you shouldn't. But when you get around people who are actually doing it, it's so freeing. You're like, oh, like I can actually do it because other people are doing it, right? Like nobody knows, like if you don't know real estate, like why would you listen to those people about whether you can do it or not? So I found Bigger Pockets. I started helping out, asking questions in the forums. Like people can go back to my early posts and be like, I'm like, how do I buy a duplex? I'm asking all these questions. And that led to me meeting Josh Dorkin. So again, at the time, it was just kind of a hobby for him. Then he kind of made it a business, but it was still pretty small at the time. And I started editing blog posts for him. He's just like, hey, I'm looking for some help. Can you edit? And I'm like, I can edit. It was a lie. I couldn't edit. I didn't know the difference between like there, and there, right? I just like pretend. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really good at English.
Why did you want to join so bad? Did he have a lot of credentials?
No, but at the time I had another blog. It was called Real Estate in Your 20s. This is my entry into investing. And my entry into internet marketing. Sure. So I had realestateInYour20s.com. Still there right now. I just haven't updated it in a decade. But the idea was like, I'm a big believer that when it comes to internet marketing, or any marketing really, but I want to be the intersection of 2 points, right? So it was real estate for young people in your 20s. And it actually worked pretty well. Like it started growing and started doing better. But the way back in the day, maybe it still works this way, but the way that it really worked was you'd go and guest post on somebody else's blog who was bigger. I guess on YouTube, you go and JV with somebody on a YouTube channel, right? So I was guest blogging for Josh as a way to grow mine. And then when he was looking for help, I'm making $3,000 a month. Like it wasn't that much money at the time. And I'm like, well, he's going to pay me to do this. And I think he paid me like $100 a post to like edit it and then post it on the blog. So I was making some money at that point. I was just like a 1099 contractor. And we just found that we liked each other. We like started talking every day, and like the few hours of editing blog posts turned into like 9 hours of working straight through and just chatting on Skype at the time. And then that led to, hey, maybe we should start a podcast. And that's when the Bigger Pockets podcast started, is we started a podcast. I remember I was thinking, like, I want to be like top 100 business podcast within 5 years. That was like our goal we wrote down. And it was like the first week we were like number 5 and like never dropped below number 20 in the last 9 years.
How did you scale so quickly?
We had an email list. So by that point, Josh had an email list. I remember he had 100,000 people on his email list.
That's good.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so for what year was that?
That would have been, 2011.
Not bad.
Yeah, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And so, he had spent a decade building that list. So a lot of people like falsely think that I started Bigger Pockets. I'm like, no, I came in like a decade after Josh. The reason that Bigger Pockets is successful is not because I came in, even though that's when it hockey sticked up, but that wasn't because of me. It was because Josh did 10 years of making no money. And there's such a lesson in this, right? Like almost everybody I know who is really successful in business, there was years of not making any money before it hockey sticked up. Every once in a while, you see somebody who's just like, oh yeah, right off the bat, they did it, right? But most of the time, there's years of what you don't see. And majority of people give up somewhere in that, right? They get excited about their business, and then it's like, oh, the reality sets in, and then they give up. But Josh stuck with it for years and years and years until he finally had enough money to be able to hire his very first person, which was me. And so then I came in to help edit blog posts and podcasts, and then it just grew from there. So now the email list, and I don't know why the podcast took off, and we were early, obviously.
Yeah.
At the time, it's funny. At the time, I thought we were so late. I was like, everybody's got a podcast. It's 2011. Like everybody has a podcast, and like they're good. Look at these podcasts. And so I never it's crazy. Yeah. And then it just became the biggest real estate podcast right away, and it never really left that. And so it became just a big show. So yeah, crazy. 550 episodes later.
So why leave?
Yeah.
And we should go into that before we go into more real estate.
Sure.
While we're on the topic.
Yeah. So I still love Bigger Pockets. I love it very much. I'm still a part owner of the company. I will maintain that, and I'll still be around. Like we're still together. But I just have this I live in Hawaii now. I got 2 little kids, 2 and 5. And just like selling my old rental properties, I needed to clear that mental bandwidth out of my life. Bigger Pockets, I needed to break from the not say monotony, because it's really actually enjoyable, the podcast and YouTube, but I needed a break from that so I can refocus on family and on, you know, the real estate company that I built, ODC. And so like we decided, my wife and I were like, I think this is time to just step back, let the company do what it does. Because here's the problem, right? When you have a company that is heavily dependent upon one person, there's 50 people that work at Bigger Pockets and they're all amazing. But when people think Bigger Pockets, they think of me, like a lot of people do, right? How do you sell a business someday? Or how do you go public? I mean, I don't know where Bigger Pockets is going to sell or go public again. Like they sold a few years ago partially, but like, how do you eventually liquidate a company when it's dependent on one person? You can't. It's really, really, really hard. And so we all knew this was a Band-Aid that we had to rip off at some point, that we had to get out of me being the center. And so it was kind of might as well do it now before have to do it eventually.
Oh, it's so tough because for a while I believed that you were Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, see, a lot of people do.
Everyone is like, oh, Brandon from Bigger Pockets. It's just like, it's flowed so nicely. And as you as the face of that was like, hey, some guy's really into real estate and house hacking who gets down to the nitty gritty. It's like, it's a good story. It's a good image. And it's like, everyone can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was great, and I'm not saying I'm gone forever. I like the idea of thinking like, so here's what it was. This is an interesting thing. So I have a performance coach. His name's Jason Dries. He's awesome, and he asked as a good performance coach does. They ask good questions, and then it's almost like therapy. It's like we were talking about me being just stressed out, and I feel like I'm working too many hours, and like I don't work that many hours, but when like any hours is too many hours when I've got little kids that I'd rather be with, and so he said, have you ever thought about taking a sabbatical? Just like take a month off. And I was like, oh, that's a really good question. Should I do that? Do I need a sabbatical? And as soon as I said, yeah, I'm going to take a month. I mean, I went 9 years without missing an episode. I think I had one episode somewhere in the middle where I missed, but I went 9 years. It was me every single week. I'm the continuity. And all of a sudden I was like, I could take a month off. I can detach my identity from the podcast for a little bit. And as soon as I did that, I tore something. Like it tore the connection between me and I have to be the guy in the podcast. I have to be the one doing it. I have to be the one running every piece of my company. And once I tore that a little bit, it was no longer attached. And I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to take a month off, what if I took 3 months off? And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, what if I took 6 months off? And then I was like, what if I take indefinitely off? And it was doable. I could not go from Brandon on the podcast to leaving the podcast. But I had to, once I just tore that a little bit, it opened up the rest, which is just a weird like psychological thing that I think a lot of people go through. Their identity is in their job or in their career or in that, whatever that is. And it is so hard to leave that. So finally came time and they'll do fine. If people love the brand, Bigger Pockets is so strong now that they'll do all right.
Yeah. How do the episodes do when you're not in them?
Some of them do really well. What people like, is the data. We found that people like data a lot. So we've got, David Green. Everyone loves David Green. He's my co-host, and he's really good at metaphors. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, and they love David. But they also we have a new show now. We're like on the same channel where they're going through data. Like here's all this crazy information about the real estate market, and here's what it means. And people love those shows. I'm not that guy. Like I can't tell you what the per capita income is of Cleveland. I don't care. Like that's not my job. I can hype you up and I can get you really excited about real estate and I can explain why it's good and $100 a month and little oil wells. I love that stuff, but I'm not a data guy. So it's good. They'll experiment. But you ever watch, what's the show called? Kelly and Live with Kelly and
it used to be Regis.
So it was Regis and Kathy
Regis
Lee,
and
right?
Yeah.
Originally. So this is probably even before, like when I was in like high school, it was Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yeah.
Then Kathy Lee left and it was Regis and Kelly.
Yeah.
Then Regis left and it was Kelly and Michael. Then Michael left and it was Kelly and Ryan. So,
I liked Michael.
Yeah, Michael was cool, right?
Yeah.
Michael Strathan, the
Yeah,
with the gap in his
the
teeth,
teeth.
right?
Yeah, I loved him.
Yeah, I
he
did
was
too.
so
Was
funny.
this a talk show or something?
Yeah, it's like a morning
yeah.
Today show kind of thing.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Jack's too young to remember.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this was so today it's Ryan Seacrest, and so every time that happens in that show, people are like, "This show sucks." I'm like because like you get used to the people. Like imagine if suddenly like you left the show, right? People are like
Who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy?
Who's
Right?
this
Like,
schmuck
or
here?
if you left,
Yeah.
people would be like, "Hey, we miss him. Bring him back." Right? But they get over it, and people will get over it, and there's going to be a dip probably, and they'll be like, well, we want Brandon back because that's what they're used to, and then they'll get somebody else in there, and then they'll get used to that person, And I'll pop back in and be like, hey, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you working on over the next year?
Oh,
What's the
man, I
plan?
don't know. I really want to get better at surfing.
Yeah?
Is a big piece of it. I want to write another book or two. I've written a bunch and I like writing a lot. So I'll probably write a book or two maybe if I get bored. But man, I just want to I want to watch my kids grow up. You know, you don't get that again, right? I mean, you guys don't have kids yet, right?
No,
But
you could always just have another kid, though.
I could have another kid.
Yeah.
I want more kids. Kids are so much fun. They're a horrible amount of work, but it's so rewarding. And so I'd love to have another kid so I can practice that throughout the year. It'll be great. Get it? Sex joke.
But
Anyway, so
Check earmuffs.
Yeah, earmuffs, please. This show just went PG-13. So that's all. Yeah, I don't really know, but I want that. I think it's just really good for people to have more what do you call it, margin in your life, whether it's in your day. Like when I wake up in the morning, the days that I start with like a buffer, like that margin, just my days go better.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Margin, like space between when you wake up and when you get to work, right? Or even like in your day, like taking 5-minute breaks, like having margin, like edges around your day or in the middle of your day that just breaks things up. So you're not just like thing to thing to thing to thing, but taking time to just like relax and like think. In fact, I do a thing every single week. I have this like amazing massage therapist lady from the Four Seasons Hotel comes to my house. I'm a lanai. You stood on that front porch, right? And she gives me a 90-minute massage, and my wife gets like a 90-minute massage every week. It's crazy expensive, right? To do
How
that.
much
Same
does that cost?
time or
Yeah,
one after the
one
other?
at a time, right? So I think it's a couple $100 a week, maybe each person, right?
Couple hundred a
Wait,
week.
each person?
Yeah,
Per
I think
person?
it's like 150. I don't know these numbers. I think it's like $150 and for an hour and a half.
That's
I think.
wait, but and she comes to you?
Yeah, it comes to me.
That's cheap.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad
150
for a
to,
massage, correct?
to come to you for
Yes.
an hour and a half.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
It's
at
not terrible,
all.
right?
Yeah.
But you do it. Yeah, now it's. But you made my wife both. Now it's $300 a week times 4. It's $1,200 a month. Let's call it. Some people would say that's a frivolous waste of money. That is the most profitable hour and a half of my week by far when I'm on that massage table, because that's buffer, that's margin in my life where the first hour of that, right? There's and this is important. 90 minutes is more, to me anyway. 90 minutes matters, 60 minutes doesn't do. Just like a 60-minute run doesn't do it for me, a 90-minute run changes my life. And here's why. The first hour of that like boredom, no phone, no nothing, your brain's like bored, first of all. It's trying to like find ways to get the dopamine hit that you get every time you swipe, right? And for the first hour, it's like just all over. It's just scrambled. You're thinking of 100 different things. But then at some point in there, your brain starts to think of something that's important. You get through the clutter and it starts to focus on a thing, some problem in your life or some situation or some business idea. And so I liken it to a tornado, right? So a tornado, like it's whirling around like this really fast. And then it starts to like cycle in on something. And then you get just on some topic in your head. And the last 30 minutes of that massage is where like, I would say 9 out of 10 of my best ideas for whether it's video content or business ideas, problems that I'm going with in business, how to grow, like Open Door Capital, like the company I founded, like so much of that has been because of that margin, that time. So going back, the year that I'm taking off is really designed to be a year of just margin. People call them sabbaticals. So like, that's what it's about just taking that time. In fact, I have that margin every week. Friday night at sunset, like we shut off our phones, no phone, no TV, unless it's like a family movie, which is like a cool thing to do, right? But like it's margin. There's no phone, there's no work, there's no shopping. We don't go shopping. We don't spend money other than maybe go to coffee together. And it forces you to slow down and just add that margin in your week. So I'm all about like margin in my day, margin in my week, and now margin in my life. And so when you add that in there, it just adds a richness and a depth to your life that I think I lacked for a long time. And the more I lean into that, the more happy and fulfilled I'm getting.
I want a massage now.
Let's do it right
I've
now.
never gotten
Come on over here,
Oh
man.
my
Come
God,
on
it's
over
amazing.
here.
Yeah.
You used
Oh.
to get them, man.
Yeah, I did. So I was about to say, so in LA, at the Oppenheim Group, right below, there was this massage place that had happy hour massage. Get this, 30